Hello everyone, it's Justine. Today I'm going to show you how to create a scene using some stamped images. So first I just want to talk about what I am using today for my stamps. I'm using the Fall Gnomes stamp set, and this is the stamp set of the month for September 2022 from Spellbinders. And I always recommend, if you're going to get the stamp set, you might as well get the coordinating dies that come with it. There is not a coordinating die for every single stamp, but for most of them there will be a die. So I'm just going ahead and overlaying the die onto where the stamp would go, just so you can see which stamps have dies with them. Again, I would recommend getting the die set with the stamps. It's only a couple dollars more and totally worth it. Unless you have a scan and cut machine, then you probably don't need them, but if you don't and you just have a die cut machine, I would recommend getting them. Now I'm going to make another video with the stamp set, so that's why I have those 5 off to the side, but you can still see the stamped images are going to be looking like that. So if you're interested in that video, check out my channel. I have that one posted for September 1st. And it's an interactive card, so be excited. Anyway, for this card, I am going to show you how to make a scene with your stamped images. So to create a scene, first we need some stamped images with color. So I'm going to use a number of orange yellowish colors here to make my pumpkins come to life. Right now they're just black and white, so they need a little life. I'm going to use YR07, YR04, and YR14. So to add a little bit of color to my pumpkins, it will be quite simple. I'm just adding the color directly onto the pumpkins, and then I'm going to add kind of a shading. So I'm putting the darker color near the bottom and the top to create an illusion of kind of a rounded pumpkin. Because we know that pumpkins are not flat, it helps to create a little bit of dimension with the colors. So I put down first the YR07, and I'm going in with the darker color YR04. And my apologies for not putting the cap up so you can see the numbers every time, but later in the video I remember and I do that for the remaining of the video, so I am sorry, but it will get better. Usually when I'm coloring, it's off camera and I'm just relaxing, so I'm not used to putting my caps up yet. But I will tell you all of my colors if the cap is not showing. So I'm using kind of like flicking motions going down to create that darker area. Now pumpkins are not perfect, so if the flicking isn't perfect, that's okay. If there's a perfect pumpkin from a patch, I would wonder, is it plastic? Because they're all full of dents and bumps, so it's okay if it's not perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and color all 3 of my pumpkins that are the wide flat ones, just like that. Then I'm going to add a little bit of brown on top, and that was E37. And I'm using Copic markers, but if you don't have Copic markers, use something else. Use crayons, color pencils, watercolor paint, really anything to add color to your images will work. Then I'm going to use YR14 on my tall pumpkins and really make these darker, more of like a gourd, different variety of pumpkin, if you will. So as I color this, I will just say some tips about creating a scene. Of course, if it's a scene, you will need a background. So on my background, you can kind of see it coming to life there. I have a ground and a sky. So the ground is brown because this is a fall card. I'm kind of imitating the pumpkin patch look. And the sky is kind of darker because this is kind of a fall theme card. And to make the line, which is the horizon line, where the ground meets the sky, I just took my scissors and cut kind of like a wiggly line. There are dies that make this line for you, but if you just have a scissors, you can make your own, which is what I did. But those dies are helpful, especially if they're grass or waves, hills. I wouldn't say that those are never helpful, but I usually just grab my scissors and cut my own. Anyway, another thing that is important is to have focal points. So those on this card will be all of my stamped images. The placement of them is quite important, so I'll show you that and talk more about that when I'm putting my images onto my card. But really, the point of a scene card is to tell a story. So you want the viewer to see, okay, there's a gnome in a pumpkin patch, and you can kind of start creating the scene where the person who's looking at the card, the viewer, can almost make up a little story in their head of, oh, this little gnome is in the pumpkin patch, he's got his wheelbarrow, he's got his coffee. It's cute, right? You tell the story. Now, part of that is shade and shine, which is kind of my little double S here. So shade and shine. So we're adding shade to the pumpkins to create the illusion of them being darker on the bottom or on the rounded areas, really. And the shine might be for images where maybe if the gnome had glasses, we would add a little shine with some glossy accents or nouveau drops. Or if there's a glass element, if it was a car or a door, you might add a little bit of shine there. You might also take a white gel pen and add like a shine line to a balloon or something that would create kind of like a highlighted light piece. And that really does help the story come to life, especially on those focal points. You can also use some Wink of Stella liquid, kind of like sparkly shimmery pen to add some shine to some points where you want the viewer to have the image or their eye drawn to. Now for this little pumpkin, I'm just using YR14 because it is quite teeny and is going in the corner there. Lastly, one other thing that I think is important for scene cards is some kind of sentiment to kind of pull it all together. Sometimes you could use stamps or dies, or you could even write your own on the front of a card. Today for this card, I'm using a die set, and this is the fall word that you see on the left there. It is from the die of the month from September. And I'm just using the word fall to kind of have a nod to the season on this card. I love the font that is on here, and there's several dies now that I have from Spellbinders with this font, and they're just fun. So I'm going in with YR14 to start making my gnome's striped hat. And I'm just going every other color and going up from there. Then I have R08 to go on the opposite stripes. Then what I like to do for sometimes with clothing or adding details, I'm going over with the R08 on the yellow areas to create little polka dots, just for fun. I'm also going in on the side with the same color just to add a little bit of darker areas to create the illusion of his hat being kind of rounded. Then I am going to use E02 for his nose and hands. Then for his beard, I'm using E35 to create kind of an all-over tone on the beard. Then I'm going to use E57 and create a kind of like a hairy look by taking my marker and making little swirls and circles, kind of little CU shape pattern. This is to create the illusion of a curly beard. My inspiration for the beard was my husband. Bless him. All right, moving on to the clothing part of the gnome. I'm going to use E44 to make kind of the cloak, shirt, pants. I'm not really quite sure what this is, the clothing for the gnome. and just adding a little bit more underneath the beard for shade. Then I'm going to use E57 again to add a little bit more color to the sides to create the illusion of a rounded body. Then I'm using C10 to create the shoes, just basically a black, brownish color. Then I'm adding that same color to the top of the coffee, going in with R08 for the heart on the coffee pot. Then I will use E15 for the rest of the coffee cup. Not a pot, my mistake. Another part of creating the scene is to kind of make the character or animal or whoever is kind of the main point of the card have a little life to it. So I'm having the gnome hold the coffee like he's strolling through a patch of pumpkins, drinking his coffee. Maybe he's the farmer. I don't know. He put his wagon down to have a little sip of his coffee from his honey bun who gave it to him with a heart. So it's just kind of a sweet little thing. Sorry, I didn't say the colors for the wagon. I will now, though. For the wagon, I used C2, C4, and C6, just to add kind of a little weathered look to my wagon. There it is. So just to talk about the placement of those focal points, I wanted the gnome to look like he might have been carrying that wheelbarrow or pushing it and just kind of set it off to his side. And the pumpkins are kind of scattered around. I will put one pumpkin behind the gnome, kind of peeking out to show even just slight dimension to the scene. Just like that. Now, if I were to remake this card, to add a little bit of oomph to the background, I would take the sunflower stamp from the set and I would stamp it behind my gnome before I put all of my pieces down. Even if I didn't add any color to it, I think that the sunflowers in the background would have looked really sweet and used even more of the stamp set, but maybe for another time, we will see. So now all I have to do is glue all of my elements on to my card. So if you've learned anything from this video or like the card at all, please hit the like button, and I encourage you to subscribe to my channel for future videos. I will have quite a few videos here in the month of September as we approach fall season. They will be fall related and quite a bit of Christmas. So if you're interested in seeing those kind of cards or even just other cards that are stitched or glimmered, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. But wait, there's more. Like an infomercial. I do want to mention one more thing about scene cards. When you have a scene like this, you can add shading underneath the stamped images, and this will create an illusion of a light source. So maybe it's the sun since this little guy is outside. So I'm just going to go in with a light brown color and create the illusion of a shadow. Just like that. Then it will show that there's kind of like a shadow to the pumpkins, the little gnome, and it definitely adds a finished look to the card. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you get to craft soon. Bye!